Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, good morning. I hope that you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after the holiday weekend. It is the Monday after Thanksgiving here in the United States, and I could not think of a better topic than today's topic of how to hit the reset button on your health and wellness. My name is Lil. This is the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. And as I've stated, my goal through the end of the year is to just give you the best advice, information, ideas that I possibly can, so that when you are ready to jump in and start making change, you have the best information available to do so. And when I thought about how I used to approach this time of year for so many years, this would be the day, the Monday after Thanksgiving, that I would do a 3-day cleanse. I would lose anywhere from 2 pounds. One time I lost, I think, almost 6 or 7 pounds on this cleanse. Hint, it's not really fat that you're losing when you do things like that. It's just water weight and muscle, because you're starving yourself for 3 days, basically. And I just thought, I need to share with you that there is a better way. You don't need to be starving yourself. You don't need to be doing crazy, wacky things. And we are in the thick of the holiday season where you're now going to be gearing up for the rest of the holidays. And I know so many of you are like nervous and you don't trust yourself. And as much as you enjoy this time, there's that little piece of you that dreads stepping on the scale in January, looking in the mirror and realizing that excess eating, excess drinking, not really moving your body, the cold weather, we tend to stick indoors a little bit more and be less active, that in January, you're just going to look in the mirror and go, ugh. And as much as you're enjoying yourself right now, you kind of know that this is happening, and you might already be starting to think of how you're going to approach that moment. So I thought, why don't we talk about how to hit the reset button on your health and wellness and do it in a way that can actually be effective? I kind of hope that if you're listening to this now, that it can help you take a pause and maybe approach the rest of 2023 a little bit differently than maybe you had planned on, because you're going to realize it's actually not that hard to treat your body well and do the things that you need to do so you don't end up a bloated mess on January 2nd or 3rd. If you already feel like you're bloated and totally off track with your eating, if you've been drinking more than usual, eating more than usual, not working out, and not doing all those things that you constantly feel like you should be doing when it comes to taking care of yourself, If you've put all that on the back burner right now and just enjoying things, I know there's still that little whisper in your ear that, oh, you're going to be sorry and you got to knock it off. So I'm hoping that I can be a louder voice of reason that can actually help you feel more confident and not have this fear, this guilt, and this shame moving forward. So let's talk about it. How do we get out of this space and just hit that reset button on your habits? Before we talk about what you could do or should do, I think we need to talk about what you probably should not do that I do not recommend. And this is doing a detox or a diet cleanse. Please remember, if you have a functioning liver, functioning kidneys, you're good. That's their entire job, to rid your body of toxins. There is absolutely no cleanse or detox diet that is doing anything for you that your liver and kidneys are not doing. You don't need to starve yourself doing a juice cleanse or cut out dairy and gluten or carbs. This is all arbitrary nonsense. It's all just silly pseudoscience. And while, yes, you'll probably lose some weight because it'll be water weight and you'll be starving yourself or giving up carbs, and your body stores carbs as energy in your muscles. So if you stop eating carbs, then you stop storing that energy in your muscles and the scale weight goes down. But you're not necessarily losing fat. You're not doing anything that's going to create a long-term sustainable benefit to your body. If you feel like you're tempted to do a cleanse because you just feel like you've been eating too much sugar, too much fat, drinking too much alcohol, and having a bunch of fast food, junk food, all those treats and the special dishes that you have during holiday get-togethers, I have a much better and more enjoyable suggestion on the steps that you can take to hit the reset button. But before we dive in, I have a little mindset shift I want to ask you to make. Often we think about how we need to restrict and give up so much to be healthy, and that health really means giving up all these things that we love. I'm going to ask you, can you please realize that it doesn't need to be this way? Instead, shift your mindset to this understanding that if you give your body what it needs to thrive first, you still have room for those foods that are not quite as nourishing. And this is why maintenance, eating in maintenance, understanding how to nourish your body in a maintenance phase is so flexible. And it's about being an adult. It's about taking the information and then deciding that you are going to make these shifts, in particular with your mindset, that what it takes to be healthy does not have to be painful. It does not have to be miserable. It does not have to be unenjoyable, because nobody wants to do that forever. Look at it as being exciting, because you're building something that's going to, number one, take care of your body and truly be self-care. And number two, you're going to find a way for it to be enjoyable, because you want to keep doing this for the rest of your life, pretty much, right? That's the goal here. And while there might be subtle shifts and flexibility along the way, you're ultimately building that confidence that you need to understand how to build long-term habits that work for you. So the first step, you might get mad at me for this, get on the freaking scale. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because I talk about this all the time. And if you haven't listened to previous episodes, just go back and listen to different episodes, because I talk about the scale all the time. But seriously, get on the scale and just figure out where you are. And guess what? You're the reason the scale says whatever number it says on there. Your habits are why you're seeing the number that you see. So put on your big girl pants, see what that number is. And if you're mad about it, use that to motivate yourself to make change. And as I've said in the past, if you really have that horrible relationship with the scale where you can't look at it, where you're avoiding it, and you are unable to see it as a tool, just giving you information, then you need to work on your mental health, because it is just a tool. And getting to the point where you can actually use it to help you on your journey is going to change everything for you. As a society, as women, we have over dramatized the scale. There are endless memes, there are endless jokes about it, and we need to get over and be adults about it and just understand there's nothing disordered about understanding how much you weigh. I've said this before. For some reason, weight gets distorted as we get older. As a labor and delivery nurse, it was so essential that we weigh the babies because the fluctuations in their weight can be so important for their overall health and just understanding how their bodies are functioning. And the same goes for you as an adult, but we get all weird about it. And we say it's disordered to weigh ourselves or it's disordered to get on the scale every day. Start looking at the scale as a tool. Stop getting emotional about it and realize that when you use the scale, I almost said stool. When you use the scale correctly, it can be your very best friend on this journey. Not because you're looking to lose weight, but again, you're looking to create boundaries with yourself and understand where you are so you can decide where you want to go. So if this is a struggle for you, go back and scroll through my episodes and just start binging my episodes because I talk about the scale in so many of them. Okay, so that's step one on hitting the reset button. Again, we got to have awareness. We got to know where we are. So get on the scale. If you have gained 5 pounds in the last month, is that making you happy? How do you feel about that? If you don't feel so good about it, then time to make some change. Number 2, this is so helpful, and I know so many people struggle with it, but the number one thing you can do for yourself and your overall health is just give yourself a break on the alcohol. Cut out the alcohol for a couple weeks and just see how less bloated you feel, how much better you're sleeping, how much easier it is to make better food choices. And it's just this whole ripple effect where even just having 1 or 2 drinks can seriously disrupt your sleep. It can make it harder to get up in the morning to do your workouts, and you don't need alcohol. Okay? You need food. Your body needs food for energy. There is zero reason that you need alcohol. And if you have that much of a problem cutting it out for 1 week or 2 weeks, then you might want to reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. I took a good hard look at the supplements that I was taking and I removed 90% of them. The one supplement that I kept was my pre-workout, but then I challenged myself for a week to not take it because I just wanted to make sure that I was in control of that relationship because I noticed I would wake up in the morning and I would be craving my pre-workout from the minute I woke up. And I'm sure it has to do with the caffeine, similar to people who wake up and have a pot of coffee going. I don't personally drink coffee, but I have my pre-workout. And I really didn't like that feeling of feeling like I was not in control of the relationship. So this summer I did it. I went a whole week without using pre-workout. And it just made me realize I was the one in control of the relationship. Yes, I started drinking it again, but it makes me mindful of making sure that I am the one driving the ship and I'm not just falling victim to these cravings or a substance that is having control over me. So if alcohol is something where you just literally feel like you cannot give it up, ask yourself who's driving your ship. Is the alcohol controlling you or are you controlling your relationship with alcohol? I assure you, even if you're just having 1 drink a night, if you knock it off, you are going to feel so much better. You're going to be less bloated. You're going to be more clear-headed, and you are going to notice some positive changes. So that is absolutely something that is essential in hitting the reset button. Okay. Number 3, we got to talk about water because sometimes when we get in this mode with holidays, you're just finding yourself with a drink in your hand, no matter what that is, whether it is a cocktail or a beer or a glass of wine or a soda, or maybe it's a spiked coffee or whatever. These are not things that you normally drink. Number one, they're adding excess calories to the calories that you're consuming. They most likely have a lot of sugar, and it's not something that you're used to consuming, and it can cause the scale to go up because you're going to be adding excess body fat if you're consuming too many calories. And remember, it isn't the drink itself that is the culprit. I mean, alcohol, yes, it's a poison, but the problem is when you're consuming too many calories in calorie dense drinks like sodas or heavily sugared coffee drinks and things like that. It isn't the sugar or the drink that's the problem. It's the overconsumption of sugary beverages that create a calorie surplus and cause weight gain with excess body fat, which then leads to negative health effects. So really being aware and limiting or cutting out drinking your calories can be a great way to hit the reset button. Just saying, you know what? I'm just going to have water. I'm going to have just coffee with the minimal amount of add-ins, like whatever you normally have. Hopefully you're not dumping a ton of sugar and stuff in your coffee, and maybe some seltzers, things like that, and just choosing to only be nourishing your body with the liquids that you're choosing to drink. Staying hydrated is your best bet when it comes to giving your body what it needs, and you don't need to be loading up on sugar and calories in the process. Okay, number 4. Eating large, filling, balanced meals of whole foods, prioritizing whole grains, fruits, veggies, lean protein, healthy fats, all those things that we know are good for us. And maybe give up the treats for a few days and simply decide that you will wait to have your treats until after you've had a really nice, nourishing, balanced meal. And this is where macros can really come in to help you guide your food choices. It can be so liberating and helpful because it's not about good and bad. Macros are about giving yourself guidelines and creating boundaries. It's letting yourself know that there is a limit and you should be staying within those limits, and there are room for the foods you love within those limits. I know some people fear numbers and counting calories and things like that, but when you do it the right way, you realize what you're actually doing is making sure that you're getting enough of what your body needs to be fueled and nourished correctly. And once you're making sure that you're giving your body that first, you still have that room to fit in the foods that may not be providing your body with the nourishment that it needs, but that you really enjoy and they nourish your soul. So many of you are afraid of moving away from these diets that have arbitrary rules like intermittent fasting or keto and lists of good and bad foods because those things look very black and white. But I'm telling you, the magic happens in the gray areas. The magic happens in the nuance that counting your macros can give you. And I'm telling you, everything will change when you start looking to nourish your body and not punish it. And you just understand that you can be so proud of eating those filling, balanced meals so that you can enjoy having a little bit of ice cream or a cupcake and things like that. Okay, number 5. This is a big one. If you want to hit the reset button on your health and wellness, you need to connect and engage with people who truly inspire you and inspire you with a realistic and sustainable lifestyle choice. This means unfollowing anyone on social media who is promoting complicated, restrictive approaches and seeking out people who promote balance and realistic solutions. I highly suggest going through your follow list on Instagram and doing a little cleanse of your feed. I did this. I actually do this maybe once or twice a year where I just go through and I say, do I really need this message that this person is representing? And have they actually provided me with information that has improved my life? And if the answer is no, then I hit the unfollow button on that influencer or, whoever they are. You can always go to my Instagram at Macros with Lil and see who I follow when it comes to nutrition and fitness if you want to get some ideas on who to follow. I don't follow anyone that prescribes to pseudoscience or wacky information. I make sure that everyone I follow is qualified to give the information that they give. If they're talking about food and fitness, they have the qualifications for that. If they're talking about hormones, they have the qualifications for that. And I unfollow anyone who is preaching and talking outside of their scope of practice. And as I've said before, you can see a lot of people wearing a white lab coat or calling themselves doctor. But if you have a doctor of homeopathy, which that's like a questionable title anyway, trying to talk to you about hormones, like that's a big nope. The only people who are qualified to talk about hormones are endocrinologists and your OBGYN. Those are the educators, the professionals who study these things, who understand the science and can actually help you. But there's a lot of people out there right now trying to convince you that they can help you, quote, balance your hormones and all of this nonsense. So please stick with people, check their credentials, make sure that they are giving you information within the scope of their practice. If you are following someone and actually taking their advice and starting to do what they advise you to do, please make sure the credentials they share are in line with the program that they're creating. There's a lot of fear mongering out there done simply because people like this are scammers who want to make money off of you. So someone shows up on social media and tries to scare you into thinking that something's wrong with you with your gut health or your hormones. And then they say, oh, but wait, I have this amazing program that's going to fix all your problems that you really don't have. And they try to put themselves off as an expert. And this is just going to create confusion. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste energy. You're going to waste money. I have a whole episode on diet, like overly complicated diets and how not to be scammed by them. So please listen to that episode. And especially for us women who are in the menopause phase of life, we have a huge target on our foreheads from these scammers. And it's really, really important that you don't overcomplicate your own life by falling for these scammy diets and programs. So start looking for people who are giving you sane advice, who are keeping things simple and are sharing information that you realize is something that you can actually take action on in your own life, and it could be sustainable for you. Number 6, I suggest creating a checklist of non-negotiable daily and weekly habits and sticking to it. I'm going to put the link to all of my resources when it comes to creating habits and routines and resets. I'm going to put all the links to all that information in the episode details here and in the show notes, because that can be a great place to start when it comes to setting goals and building routines to support your goals. Start small though. Please don't try to do everything at once. Just start with a few simple habits, like I said, cutting out the alcohol, drinking more water, starting to eat more balanced meals. You don't need to save the world all at once. Start small and build. Okay, number 7, it can be so helpful to find a book to read or listen to that is going to keep you motivated and give you ideas. Listen to my podcast, go back and listen to other episodes and others who share similar messages of sustainable and realistic habits. The only other nutrition podcast I really listen to is the Nutrition Science Podcast by Dr. Adrian Chavez. That's an excellent one, and he is just fantastic, so that might be another good one. But I recommend starting for books. I really recommend starting with Atomic Habits, The Perfect Day Formula, and I'll put a whole link to all of the books that I recommend in the show notes here. But it can just be so helpful because not every conversation you're having in your day is going to be motivating and, keep the experience going for yourself. So being proactive and saying, I'm going to put my earbuds in and make sure that I'm connecting with motivational, inspirational information each day, and also educational information that you can actually start taking action on. So listening to podcasts, listening to books, that can be just a really helpful way to stay connected to your goals especially if you don't feel like you're in a very supportive environment when it comes to the people in your life. Okay, last one. My last suggestion on how to hit the reset button on your health and wellness is, this is a repeat. I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it, but please remember, it's not about what you do. It's about who you decide to be. Once you decide to be the person who works out, who prioritizes whole foods, who makes room for treats and enjoys them, who doesn't get upset over the scale, who lives an active life, who strength trains, who tries to have a positive attitude, and most importantly, doesn't have an all-in or all-out attitude and understands there's nuance and flexibility required for long-term change. Once you become that person, everything is going to change for you. If you continue to be the person that you are today and you only try to do the things that someone who has a healthy lifestyle does, but you don't truly see yourself as being that person, then it's only going to be temporary. So the process is not about changing what you do. It's about also changing who you are and how you view yourself and understanding there are no limits. You can decide to be whoever you want to be within, of course, like, don't take me literally here. You can't wake up and, be a supermodel tomorrow, but within the context of your own life, you can just decide to wake up tomorrow and approach life totally differently. That opportunity is available to you. So you can decide how you're going to start. Are you going to be the person who carries a water bottle with you? Are you going to be the person that sets their alarm and gives yourself an extra hour in your morning so that you can do these things to take care of yourself and fit a workout in? Or are you going to view it as something that's temporary and, as soon as I hit my goal, then I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing before? It's about deciding who you are. Okay, so those are my tips on how to hit the reset button on your health and wellness. There's going to be a ton of resources for you in the episode details and show notes, so make sure to check that out. And let's do things differently this year. Instead of chasing cleanses, detoxes, and extreme diets, let's build habits that actually stick so you don't find yourself back in the same place a year from now. You can get started on your own with my Lose Fat for Good workshop, and I've decided to create a discount code just for those of you who tune into the podcast, and you can get the workshop for only $147. That's a 50% discount if you enter the code podcast at checkout. This is for the person who wants to do things on their own. You don't want one-to-one coaching. You don't want that expert guidance. You just want the information and to run with it. If you need more help, more support, more guidance, then look to my one-to-one coaching information and fill out the application for coaching. And in January, I will have availability for both of my one-to-one coaching packages, for Zoom calls and for email check-ins. The workshop, for someone who wants to do things yourself, figure things out, it synthesizes everything you hear on my podcast, and I've created a simple step-by-step system for you to follow. Go ahead, check the show details below, and use that code podcast for 50% discount if you think that is for you and it will help you. But please remember, extreme diets and fads get you nowhere. It is time to start doing things differently. And it starts now. It starts with your mindset. It starts with your decision and deciding how you're going to hit the reset button for your own health and wellness. Okay, have the best Monday. That is it for today's episode, and I will see you back here on Friday. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.